I wouldn't want to be a priest because you don't make a lot of money.
I don't think that is what God's calling me to do.
My mom's family is Jewish.
I wouldn't really picture myself being a priest.
I think I like girls too much.
My father's family is Methodist.
I think my calling would be more to have a family.
You can't get married.
I wouldn't really necessarily think that I could do it.
Or I don't know to the fact I can believe in God or not.
People always complain about how boring you are.
But right now I just don't feel like that's what I'm supposed to do with my life.
My name is Kyle Digman, and I'm in the seminary discerning the priesthood.
The feeling of being called to the priesthood is unlike anything in the world. I grew up on a farm, kind of in the country at first, and I have one older brother.
Kyle, growing up when he was younger, he had a kind of a quiet personality. He was a lot of fun, but he a little bit reserved, but he was a very humble, caring type person.
He has been a different child from day one. He's what we call our angel baby because the whole time pregnant with Kyle, he didn't want to hang around. So finally, Dr. Gerhardt and I, at about 7.5 weeks, said, let's just let him come. We didn't expect him to be perfect in any way. We were going to take what came. And so when we gave birth, he was 10 fingers, 10 toes, perfect child. And the doctor, my mother, and I cried. So again, he was an incredible blessing. But that's why we call him the angel baby, because in a lot of ways we didn't think that he was supposed to be here.
And then when I was about 6 years old, my parents got divorced. It just kind of happened and life went on. Mom had always struggled with being alone, and it was just tough. But then again, my brother and I were always there if she had a difficult time.
Kyle and I kind of shared a lot of those responsibilities, especially in the last few years. Our mother also struggles with an autoimmune illness, chronic fatigue syndrome.
The boys had some great responsibility depending on how I felt during the day. I don't know if that would have led him to the priesthood, but definitely probably led him to one of service.
There wasn't really any defining moment for me when I decided that, hey, I want to be a priest. There would be small moments where I would think, okay, I shouldn't date anymore because it's getting in the way of discernment. And then there would be times of, okay, the priesthood isn't a bad thing. And there'd be times of, okay, I need to enter seminary now and really think about this.
Kyle told me that he was thinking about going into seminary.
It never occurred to me that Kyle would be interested in that in any way. He's tall, he's attractive, he's outgoing, he's a go-getter. And he's what?
I would mention it to some people that I was in class with. They'd say, oh, what are you doing after graduation? I'd say, well, going to seminary to be a priest. They were like, oh, that's too bad. You're called to be a priest. But if you're called to the married life, it may appear that the priesthood is not as good of a vocation because you're called to the married life. And during that time, my dad was discerning living a religious vocation as well. And there was just so much sacrifice that he did in order for us to grow up, for him to be there for us, to serve us, to help us. And that very much speaks to me in terms of the priesthood.
And I can say as much as I want to say, but the example, I think that's what inspired Kyle to serve. The old man's taken off to Kentucky, and he's leaving everything behind to follow a call to Jesus, including my 2 sons. And if this old guy can do it, maybe I should at least give it a thought.
My brother really likes the idea of me being a priest and Dad joining a religious order because if that does happen, then he'll have a father who's a brother and a brother who's a father.
He didn't want to go along with what Dad had to say and what Big Brother had to say. He kind of wanted to tread his own 16, 17-year-old path.
He wasn't rock solid on the Catholic faith necessarily.
He wanted to learn about world religions and Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism and such things.
I think it took Kyle a little bit longer to realize the gifts in the Catholic faith.
You can't go out into the world and argue for your faith saying, you know, I became Catholic because my parents were Catholic. As he started to go through those, he kind of found his way back to loving what he already had.
At the very beginning of my discernment, I did not want to be called to the priesthood. I was dating somebody at the time. I thought like this could be a possibility, but I was like, oh God, please don't call me to that. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. You know, I have a great girlfriend. I have, you know, great plans for what I could do if I were to live the married life. And the priesthood just seemed like such a whole different world, such a sacrifice. In the summers, I work at a Catholic youth camp, and there was one girl that I met that was very incredible, and we connected really well.
I really expected those two to make a lifetime out of it, and somewhat devastated when it didn't.
And we were both very, very attracted to being together. But we talked about my discernment a lot. I mean, we came to the conclusion that, you know, we couldn't date. That couldn't be what we did.
Priests are going to have challenges. There's going to be temptations. I've seen that sometimes for priests, sometimes ladies are drawn to that, something that they cannot have. And in a guy, we're guys. We can't help it. We have feelings. Some things don't change, even though we choose celibacy.
I don't think the married life is ever going to stop being attractive. I don't think you know, beautifully holy women are ever going to stop being attractive, or seeing kids on Christmas morning, or I don't think that's ever going to stop being beautiful. I like to please people a lot. If I were to become a priest but didn't feel like I was helping anybody grow closer to God, that would be very difficult for me. I think a constant fear I usually have is not being adequate, not being good enough necessarily. And you just have to tell yourself, you know, it's not my job to see this effect. It might not happen for years. It's my job to love and to serve.
I mean, you have to, when you say the gals at work and stuff, when I first started there and said, you know, that my youngest is going into seminary. What? And I said, you need to meet him. You need to talk to him. There's no other way to explain it. Once you've talked to Kyle, you know why, and you can see right away why he is meant to be what he's, I don't know, studying for.
And why do you think
I said to him, you know, he can do way more for the people that he's going to be with than he could do for us around here.
I don't think I've ever met a person who is more open to whatever God is calling him to in his life. He feels God's calling him to the priesthood, and he's saying yes. To me, it's one of the most honorable things anybody can do, is to serve the church in that way.
It's not about what I want, or it's not about what's going to be nice for me. How much more beautiful is it to put aside what I want and to sacrifice, and how much more love is that? What makes me passionate about it is being able to serve people, and just totally being able to be freed of anything that might keep me from being able to serve others and serve God. Ultimately, it's not so much going to be me that's going to be making a good priest, but it's going to be the Holy Spirit working through me that's going to make me a good priest. There's nothing that I will ever be able to do as a priest that will change a person's life. It's only what God's going to be able to do through me that's going to change people's lives.